Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I've been spending a lot of time lately making clothes bigger, but this time I actually thrifted a pair of jeans that fit in the waist, but they're too big everywhere else. So I'll be making these ones smaller throughout the hip, and I'm going to also take them in on the inseam, which is a really awesome way to get pants to look just that little bit better on you. So to make these jeans fit better, I'm going to do 4 key alterations. I'll take them in on the side seam, but then also on the inseam. I'll redo the hem with a European hem, and I'll take up a tuck at the back yoke. So all 4 of those alterations together will make a big difference in how these jeans fit. So there's a little bit of work to do, but I think it's going to be worth it because right now, while these pants technically fit, they don't look great. And I'm hoping to turn them into jeans that do look a lot better. So if that sounds good to you, let's get busy. As I often do, I'm starting with the jeans inside out, and I just want to see how much and where I want to take it in and where I want to taper it in and back out. So if the side seam was like that would be pretty comfortable. But now the inseam, it's always fun to pin your own inseam for public display. And this is a flat felled seam on the inseam, but I'm not going to be taking it apart. I'm going to sneak my little alteration in right beside that flat felled seam. It'll be pretty invisible and it's going to do the job. All right, so that gets me started. So if I'm going to be taking these in right there, that rivet is exactly in the way. So I've got my cutting pliers here, and with a little convincing, oof, okay, gotta say 0.0 makes a pretty good rivet. That did not want to come out at all. Oh my gosh, there's 2 on this side. Oh lordy. Okay, I had to do that off camera because I could not trust that the vocabulary I would use would be appropriate because that was hard, but they're all gone. Okay, so now another thing that I should remove before I take this in is that little top stitch that's always in the top 6 or 7 inches of a pair of jeans. So that means I need to take out my pins, so I'm going to mark it with wax first. I know I'm not coming right up into the waist, but I think I might as well take out the top stitch as far up as it will go. And on this, it's a big, thick denim top stitching thread, so I'm going to cut like every 2nd or 3rd stitch. Okay, and then the other side rips off fairly easily. So now with the rivets gone and the top stitch gone, I can kind of plan out my route here in a way that's nice and smooth. So I'm just replacing those couple of pins that I had to pull out. And then I can blend my way back into the side seam. And then I'll make sure both sides are the same. Because I always do my fitting inside out, I don't do any differences right and left, because when they're inside out, the right is on the left and the left is on the right. So symmetrical works well for me. But if you know you have some asymmetry, then fitting them inside out is not going to work for you. So if that is the case with you, then you would just have to start with it symmetrical, try it on right side out, and make any adjustments you'd have to make. All right, so there's the side seam. That's going to be fine. So I just have a regular universal needle in the machine. If I need to switch to a denim, I will. I'll know that I need to when that one breaks. I want to get right into this seam up close here where it's sewn into the waistband. And I don't really want to have to open up the waistband. So here's my little cheat. I'm just going to snip that seam allowance so that I can lay that seam flat and get in there without making an annoying little pucker. I'll just get in as high up as I can. Okay, and I just want to sew to the left side of those rivets so that the holes don't show. And then follow my wax line. Okay, and then on the other side, I'll come up. again, if I snip into that seam allowance, it'll be a little bit easier to get a little bit higher. So the sides should be good. I'll try it on before I trim and serge. But right now, let's take a look at the inseam. I only got one side successfully pinned while I was wearing it. But it looks like I want to be taking off about 1/2 inch right up into here, right up into the crotch. And then I think I better taper out somewhere around the knee. But I'm not just going to be sewing it like that. I'm going to show you how you can hide that seam right up against this flat felled so that it disappears and you don't have to mess with that flat felled seam, but it ends up looking so much better. So on the back side here, I'm pinching away the amount that I want to take in, and it is more than 1/2 inch. It's about like that. And I'm pinning right beside this heavy chain stitch. And that's where I'm going to sew. So I'm not taking it evenly out of the front and back. It's actually all coming out of the back. And then here I'm letting it get skinnier and skinnier until it tapers off to nothing somewhere around the knee. So I'll make sure I'm tapering off at about the same level here. Okay, so now I'm just going to sew from pin to pin. That is a good inch that I'm taking out of the back right up through the crotch. Nope, I just tried them on and I want to take more than what I had pinned. So I'm folding, it's almost a full inch, 2.5 centimeters there. And then the other thing I did when I was trying it on was I decided to take more off the side too. As high up as I can get, I'm just going to shave off a little bit more on both sides and then taper back out in about the same spot. And I'm going to have to be careful not to sew in a big pucker there. That would look kind of funny and maybe be uncomfortable. So this is the double line of stitching for the flat felled seam. And I can feel the edge of that flat felled right beside here. That's where I want to be sewing, right up against the flat felled seam. Okay, so I can kind of score it with my nail. That's where I want to be aiming. So here's where I've got that extra fabric, both sides of this center back seam. So I need to start trying to ease that in. So I'm holding back a little bit so that the feed dogs start to pull that fabric through. Okay, I think that's got it. And then sewing over the seam, I better go slowly. And then tapering right off to nothing here. So that big fold right at the inseam. Let's see what that looks like. So there you go. My seam is right here. And when I press that flat, it's really going to disappear nicely against that flat felled. If I see a bit of a gap there, I can always go in and sew in a little bit closer if I think anybody's going to be noticing the crotchal area of my jeans. So, okay, what I'm going to do right now is try them on, decide on the length as well, decide if everything is as I would like it to be. I don't think I'm going to replace that top stitch at the top part of the side seam. I think I'm going to leave well enough alone. If it all fits, then I'm just moving on to the hem. And it fits so much nicer now. I'm really happy with the jeans. But while I had them on, it just occurred to me, why don't I try to lift up the butt a little bit by sneaking in a seam here in the same way that I've been doing at the inseam. Do you ever want to just pick up the butt of your jeans like that? I think that would look a little bit better too. So I'm picking up like a good 1/2 inch at that center back seam and then making it taper out to nothing toward the side seam and toward the side seam in this direction. Let's give that a shot. That could open some possibilities. Okay, coming right to the, just a couple inches from the side seam. And starting at 0. I should have hit this with a hammer first. In fact, I'm going to stop there and hit that with a hammer. Okay, back on Easy Street. Okay, does that look weird on the outside? It does make this line almost horizontal to the waistband, but it's not bad. I wonder what the fit is like. Just trying to go over it from this side just a little closer to the seam. Now, people talk about this button. Somebody asked me in my last video, why don't you use that button on your presser foot? It's because I never find that it makes a darn bit of difference. In fact, I don't even think it's a button. I think it's just a little spring. Time to try it on one more time. That actually worked surprisingly well. Like, it's so much better now. It's like hugging my butt so much better. It actually feels so much more comfortable. Like, they feel like they fit properly. So I'm not even going to trim and serge my insides here. I'm going to leave that in there, even on the inseam, even here. None of it bothers me. And I am just so excited about the fit. So I'm going to just do a quick European hem here using my favorite method from the video I recently did where I did 14 different hems. So what I'm doing, I've got it pinned up where I want it to finish, and I'm just marking that bottom edge exactly where I want it to finish. And that's where I'm going to cut. So get it all lined up nicely, both legs together. And again, you'll have to just take a little extra caution and do one leg at a time if you know that you've got some asymmetry. So I'll just be cutting that right, 1/4 inch or so from the sewing line. And then opening it up with my seam ripper. Okay, I'll open up both like that. So they're both open, and now I'm going to take that edge that I just cut, and I'm just going to run around that with the serger. I'll be right back. Okay, so just like that, one of the edges is serged, and now you kind of just switch legs so that you can still match up your seams. So this is the one that has the flat felt on it, and I want to have what was the inside of the cuff. I want to have that on the outside now. So it's going to switch over to this leg so that I can bind the seam with it like that. Now that is definitely going to need a bit of a hammer. There, now that can wrap around. And by switching legs, that's how you can make it so that the seams still match up. Because I've flipped this inside out, right? This was the inside. So if that's confusing, just look back at that video that I did with the 14 hems. Okay, I'll pin both legs like that, and then I'll just sew in that original sewing line. So the pant leg is right side out, and I'll be sewing it from the outside, right? Normally when you do a hem, you do it from the inside, but in this case, I want to be doing it from the outside so that I can follow that original sewing line. And I'm just increasing my stitch length to 3.5 millimeters. I usually do that on jeans. Just a bigger stitch length suits the thicker fabric. I just go slowly over the thick parts. So that means that these are done. That's my favorite way of doing a European hem. I think that looks just terrific. So these pants are done. Okay, these jeans are just hugging me and feeling so much better than they did when they were super baggy. The waist is still the same, and that was the only part that really fit. But it was kind of nice to make something smaller rather than always be making something bigger. But it was sort of nice for my ego. The hips, that worked out great. The inseam, just, you know, it hugs my thigh a little bit better. It feels like I'm wearing proper fitted jeans. And that little tuck right at the yoke there, oh my goodness, that is something I will do again and again. I always feel like I want to pick up the back of my jeans like that. And to make that little dart right in there along the seam of the yoke, it's so hidden and discreet. That's a good little alteration if you're like me, where you feel like the jeans are just kind of sagging on your butt a little bit. It is nice to just hoist them up. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned a little something. And until next time, I'm Catherine Stellers. You take care.